When you think of the Game Boy Advance, what do you think of? For me personally, I think about RPG games. I just think the Game Boy Advance and RPGs go well together. There was a lot of amazing RPGs released on the Game Boy Advance, but unfortunately, when you take off the nostalgia glasses, a lot of these games don't hold up. They either have some outdated gameplay element or some outdated system or some outdated quality of life thing that just doesn't feel as good to play today as it did back then. Fortunately, there's a lot of games that do still feel good and that do still hold up and that still feel like if they were released today would be reviewed well and be looked at as good, great RPG games. So we're going to take a look at 10 Game Boy Advance RPGs that you don't need nostalgia to enjoy, that you can play right now and have a good time. We'll start this list off with one of the more well-known and obvious games on this list, but an absolute classic in every sense of the word. Golden Sun. This game is a must play and it does everything right and has everything you would want from an RPG. An amazing story, characters with depth and great story arcs, an intuitive and strategic combat system, a large variety of areas and dungeons to explore, well-designed enemies and puzzles, secrets and items to collect. Literally every main thing you need for a great RPG to feel special, this game has. To be honest, I cannot for the life of me figure out why Nintendo hasn't opted to bring this franchise back. Historically, it sold well, and it was praised by critics and fans for being brilliant, so I'm not sure why it hasn't made a comeback, but in the meantime, you can go back and play the original or its even better sequel that I'll mention later on, Golden Sun 2. One of my favorite games on this list is Lufia and the Ruins of Lore. No random battles, not that I mind those, giant dungeons to explore, sprite work that couldn't have looked any better, a fairly deep combat system, and some super interesting RPG mechanics and job systems are amongst some of the more memorable parts of this game. While not as many puzzles or minigames or systems like that are included in games of this same genre normally, it doesn't feel lacking without them. Between its well-written characters, interesting story, and fun battle mechanics, you won't ever find yourself bored with this one. It's one of the more straightforward games on this list. With standard RPG fare, you know exactly what you're getting, but this package as a whole is excellent, and for one reason or another, this game really resonated with me in the past, and upon going back and looking at it now, it still does. I think this one holds up really well. Mega Man Battle Network is the literal perfect example of why companies should let characters explore genres beyond the ones they originated in. Taking a run-and-gun platforming character and making them the star of a turn-based RPG isn't something I remember ever happening before Mega Man, and not positive it's ever happened again, besides the recent Metal Slug series, but this series is a testament to why it should happen more often. This Battle Network series started on the GBA and continued its life later on the DS, but all the GBA versions were fantastic. Complex combat on a grid-based system, a giant suite of customizable systems, and a unique blend of action mixed with turn-based battles make these games a standout that feel fresh even today. It has an interesting plot that runs through the games, and its world is charming to explore. A unique standout on this list, please, if you enjoy RPGs and interesting combat systems, give any of these games a try. Lunar Legend plays exactly how you would expect a well-made turn-based RPG to play. While it doesn't do anything new or that we haven't seen before in a game of this kind, it does do everything well. A basic but interesting story. This game isn't too much of a challenge, so if you're not into the min-maxing stats or trying to grind for experience, then this game will suit you perfectly. While keeping a light-hearted tone throughout most of the game, it balances in a way that doesn't feel childish or played out. The random encounters weren't overbearing, and I found this one was just easy to pick up and jump right into. While its difficulty may shy away some more seasoned veterans of the genre, if you're looking for a well-made RPG that still holds up today, you still couldn't go wrong with trying Lunar Legend. While this series doesn't really need any explanation as to what it's all about, it has to still be mentioned on a list about RPGs that are still fun to play today. All of the Pokemon games on the GBA are stellar. It seems the monster catch and battle system in Pokemon has become timeless, as most of its core mechanics remain the same and relevant still to this day. These games seem to always withstand the test of time. Maybe it's the addicting loop of catching monsters to battle, maybe it's all the strategy and fun that comes from the exploring and collecting all these creatures, but whatever it is, this gameplay loop still feels fun to go through, and while not my first thought when I think of classic GBA RPGs, it has to be mentioned due to its impact on the genre and the fact that these games are still more than playable today. In fact, they're still incredibly fun. In my opinion, the GBA Pokemon games were the peak of the franchise. Another series with both excellent shows and games was Dragon Ball Z. While it's more known for its fighting games, it had a few RPG titles, with Boo's Fury being amongst one of the best. With its flashy fast style, you wouldn't immediately think that this series would translate well to an RPG style game, but oh boy, let me tell you, it does. An action RPG similar to the Mana games, it lets you explore the world while leveling up your stats and abilities. Fights happen in real time, and you have access to all sorts of abilities to help you punch, blast, and kick your way out of every situation they put you in. Fairly linear, but with some decent hidden rewards for exploring off the beaten path. The story follows the Boo arc of the anime and does a really good job of telling that story. This game felt very unique, from its items to its enemies. Everything felt straight out of the show in a way that shows that the devs understood the source material. A love letter to DBZ and action RPGs in general, this gameplay still holds up really well. This game here proves why you should never listen to critics and always formulate your own opinions. While it released a fairly positive reception, a lot of fans and critics at the time were quick to write off this wonderful game. It has some of the best sprite work on the entire list. The combat was basic but fun, with a good amount of variety. Your party member is an NPC that the computer controls, and even though the AI might not be the best, they still serve their purpose just fine. You visit towns, explore dungeons, level up and move through the game while learning new attacks and magic abilities. I also should mention the boss battles, as they were always fun and a highlight of the game. Lastly, the music is made by the same composer as the Final Fantasy games, so you know the soundtrack is as good as it gets. All the things a great RPG needs are here, and this game definitely still holds up today. Some of the most original character designs you'll ever encounter in an RPG, the most pristine 16-bit graphical designs possible, a colorful and vibrant world to explore. Each character in your party gets skills they can use outside of battle. Skills can be used to do everything from fishing to hunting to swimming. The plot is interesting and has dragons. Dragons, do I have to say more? There's dragons. There is a large roster of playable character, each unique in its own way with its own attacks and abilities. The combat is very solid and feels engaging the entire time. There are some super cool other mechanics that I won't spoil, and I'll let you see for yourself as well. When talking about old games that still hold up, this is a perfect example, with every element of the game being well made and crafted, with care and love dripping from every ounce of this game. When talking about the best GBA games ever released in any genre, this game has to be on the list. Breath of Fire 2 is a masterpiece. As we near the end of this list, I wanted to include at least one SRPG. While some people consider these games their own genre, which they are, they're still RPGs at their core. Tactics Ogre and the Knights of Lotus does all the SRPG elements perfectly. It has a large abundance of customization, a wide variety of characters and classes, a dark adult story far from your typical RPG whimsical tale, challenging gameplay that requires planning and focus, deep layered mechanics, and some of the best sprite work on the entire library of the GBA RPGs. I should also mention the amount of replay value this game has to offer is incredible. This list is supposed to not be about great RPGs, but great RPGs that would still be fun today, and Tactics Ogre and the Knights of Lotus most definitely is. Kind of a cop-out and a cheap way to do things, almost the equivalent of a low blow by mentioning Golden Sun twice, but the second game, Golden Sun 2 The Lost Age, was every bit as good as the first, if not better, and I chose not to group them together, because if this lets me talk about the amazing series for even one more minute, then I'll take it. The second game was originally part of the first, but due to cartridge sizes, they opted to release the second half of the game as its own sequel. It continues right where the last game left off, but due to some extra development time, the second game feels like it slightly improves over the first, if that's even possible. An attractive overworld, lovable characters with actual depth to them, engaging puzzles, fluid combat with deep combat systems, creature collecting for abilities, all the same things that made the first game so loved are here, just with added weight to its story. Golden Sun 1 and 2 are objectively likely the best GBA RPGs period, but I guess that's up for you to decide when you go to play them. Okay, if you made it to the end of this list, I just want to say I appreciate you being here. I hope I was able to show you at least one game that you have never heard of, or at least a game that you had forgotten existed. These all hold up, so if you want to go back and play any of these right now, they're still all currently fun to play. I'm really having a lot of fun doing these retro videos, so I'm going to continue every Monday doing my modern video game industry stuff and yapping about that on Mondays, but on Fridays we're going to keep doing this retro stuff. I think I got a video about Kid Chameleon and another video about Echo the Dolphin coming out next, so look forward to those. All right. I appreciate you guys being here. Please like and sub to the channel. I guess that's good for whatever statistics. So like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff. I appreciate you guys being here. I love you all. I'm out.